Hi, Vincent.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. So my canary, she had a clutch of eggs that didn't come to fruition because she obviously didn't mate. And I think that's because the males have been fighting over her and haven't allowed each other to mate with her. So they were, anyway, when they want to mate, they start decorating their nest. Like, they canaries don't usually sleep in the nest, but when they want to have babies, they'll start putting their nest together. And she did it the first time, and then she did want to breed with one of the males, and it just didn't happen. I think it's because they were too distracted fighting. And so she's decorating the nest, and so that means she's starting to get ready to breed. But my husband wants her to have babies. I don't want her to have babies at all.
Oh, because you think you have too many.
Yeah, so I'm hoping she doesn't have any.
Right.
But
Has she had them before? Has she had any baby, any chicks ever?
no, she has.
I can hear them quite
Hold on,
clearly.
hold on.
You're going to show us the one?
Hold on.
Okay.
Hello, what were you saying? My headphone
Oh, I was
stopped
asking
working.
if you were getting ready to show us which one you meant, but maybe not.
Yeah, yes, I can in a second. Let me just give them their water. And she's so obsessive that I've given her so much string, and her nest is full of it. And
Hmm.
so it ran out, and I'm kind of hoping. Um, well, I'm gonna go get more tomorrow, but it's just like, okay, your nest is pretty much done. It's full of stuff. Like, time to calm down. And she's been out of string for an hour, and um, she's already what's it called? Plucking her own feathers because she feels like she doesn't have enough string. So I have to take care of her.
Is it nice when they decorate their um, nest? I mean, are they aesthetic? Oh, Vincent has dropped out. We'll have to wait for him to return.
Hello?
Hello, I'm going to put you on
Okay.
solo layout so we can see what you're doing.
Oh, they're flirting.
But all we see is a plant and a heater or a
Oh,
sound box.
hold on. There she is right there, the canary.
The yellow one.
Yes, the yellow one. She's at the bottom now.
Hmm. But I suppose we want to see her nest and
Okay.
how she's decorated it.
Okay.
Aha. So the one in the middle is the most decorated,
Yeah, these
and
ones are
that's
less.
hers.
Yes, and there she is. She's getting ready to Go decorate it. Go decorate it. Let's see if she goes up and decorates it while I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
You can see she
So,
has string in her mouth.
so that's what it means when they say getting broody.
Maybe.
A broody bird. Oh, well, they say that of women who get. Yeah.
It's a sign that she wants to breed, that she's making her nest.
I suppose it's quite effective
Yeah, it
in
signals.
getting the males to take an interest in her.
Yeah. Yes,
Do you want to
she's
be father of my chicks?
yeah, she's trying. She's trying to seduce them. She's trying to seduce them.
How many of
So
them are there?
there's 5 canaries, but I had to separate some of them so that they would stop fighting and that she would possibly breed with one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that she would possibly breed. That's what we want. No, that's not what I want.
Did you have an approved partner? Have you and your husband agreed that if it's going to be anyone, it's going to be this one?
What are you talking about? I
Do
don't know.
you and your husband have a preferred father? Or
Yes.
does your husband have a
Well,
preferred?
actually, I let her choose. I think she has a preferred father, so I left her with her own father. I mean,
Mhm.
no, I not her own father. I left her with the one she wanted to be her father.
To be the father of her chicks.
Yeah,
Right.
the father of her chicks.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah, I left her with that. I left her with that. What were you doing this morning? You were busy.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was in. I feel a bit talked out now because I've just spoken to my mother, and before that, I was in this long thing with in two Muslim spaces, and it was Robert Cobb saying, "Oh, we're lost. We don't know. We cannot outbreed the immigrants." And then I thought of you because you were saying if he became Muslim, we're going to let all the Muslims of the world come into America. And I thought, well, you didn't exactly welcome other white Christian people into America when you were all white and Christian, didn't I?
Hello?
Oh my God.
Claire?
Yes, you can't hear
Claire,
me
I can't.
anymore. You can't hear me? Hello, 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 hello. We can't hear you, Vincent. Vincent, I think I can hear you
Hello?
again. Hello, can you hear me now?
Can't hear you.
Oh, I'm talking. I'm talking. Vincent, you have to go and come back, I guess. Hello, Vincent. We can hear you loud and clear. All your birds, we can hear loud and clear now.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Hold on.
Hello?
Yes. You put your headphones on again.
Yeah, yeah, the thing went out. But anyway, my internet went out, it said, or I had bad connection. Um
Yeah, I was telling them about what I said to you about how white Christian people were being mean to other white Christian people and not wanting them to come into their country. In the case that I cited to you, United States versus Church of the Holy Trinity, if you read it, maybe you didn't.
Not the whole thing, no. But yeah, no, I know, but it's different time, different era. It's a different time, it's a different era. We're not like that anymore, and
It's because you haven't got this thing called a religion. That's why you're not what you were.
I think we need to prepare for a little bit of dystopia for a while, and I think white people need to learn how to act like a minority. And if they don't learn how to act like a minority, then they're gonna die out.
Oh, they have to decide that they want a moral system at least effective at maintaining minimum standards of morality, ensuring most parents are married parents. That's the minimum standard.
Yeah, well, nobody wants
They can't even
it,
agree on
so
that. Yeah, that it is.
yeah, well, it's so horrible that people would rather be dead than do that. So that's not an option. If people become suicidal from your option, it's not an option.
Oh, I mean, you can shame them. It's like, well, I guess it's
That's
over
not,
for
no,
you.
but Claire, the West is not going to just, we're all fornicators, we're all adulterers, we're all doing this, we're all gay, we're all that. We're not going to be shaming each other. We're not, it's just not going to happen.
But the Abrahamic moral system has the option of redemption, right? This
Yes,
is the
but nobody wants
utopia
it.
and all that. Okay, so you're saying we're not going to correct ourselves.
Not in that manner. In another manner, maybe, but not going to, like, I'm telling you, they need to find another way to breed, and it's
Oh,
collective.
okay, so they're going to use artificial wombs.
Not
Right.
necessarily. They could just do collective breeding. The state could just, I don't see why a state can't breed its own citizens. I don't see
That's what they do. That's what they already do. But
no, that's not breeding. Leaving it willy-nilly to random people to breed your citizenship is not breeding your citizens.
No, I think what they do is say you have to breed under patriarchy. You have to marry before we allow you to breed. That was the old way. And this is what
and it was so bad. It was so bad that people rebelled against it.
Did they really rebel? I mean, they were just
Yes.
sort of. I mean, when did they rebel? I mean, they were just allowed not to, to.
No, the government. Well, look, with the sex revolution with birth control, the government tried to stop it and stop it and stop it and stop it, and there was a groundswell from the people underneath that wanted, one, less children, number two, free love.
Okay, so they have decided. They have shown that free love means progressive degeneracy.
Okay, but the only problem is it's lowered the birth rate, and that's the only problem. So that's what needs to be rectified. But there needs to be a way to rectify it without returning to what people rebelled against. They're just going to rebel again.
Yeah, so that's why you have to, bind them with laws and tradition.
Who? All the fornicators and adulterers are going to do it?
Yeah, you just say, well, we know what your sexual behavior has brought us to, and we're going to correct ourselves. And if you refuse to join us, we'll know what you are, and leave you out of things.
Okay, well, good luck trying to get even friggin' groypers are all fornicating and gay and drugging and drinking and,
Okay, I mean, you see, shame is very useful because you don't even have to hit them. You just use a form of words and maybe they're capable of being shamed. So it's like, hey, white nationalist, what's your plan? Or they're
Has
going to
that
say,
worked for you so far, Claire?
they're beyond reason, right? So it's like, okay, deaf and dumb, deaf white nationalist who has no idea other than to do more white flight and retreat and retreat, meaning that the immigrants will just advance and advance and until they take over everything. You know, just like the Europeans took over Native American land. I mean, that's what's going to happen. Because actually, the Native American were also a matriarchy. They didn't take marriage that seriously, did they?
Because nobody wants to.
Yeah, exactly. So that is the whole purpose of religion. Now we know.
Yeah,
It's
well,
there
just
to
find
build
another way.
people.
It's because it's just find another way to breed. Like, just find another way. Don't do it through marriage. Do it through contract. Have the state, have the state promote contract marriages. Just be like, we need to have children, and let's just pay these women, and then whoever the father is has to spend some time with the child, and it's not based on love. It's based on duty. It should be based on duty, not based on, oh, I fell in love with this woman. And, it should be well planned out, not willy nilly breeding with whoever your father said to marry. That's
Well, okay,
not,
why don't we do some party pamphlets for your plan then? And maybe a few sitcoms.
I'm not doing sitcoms for my,
So you have to imagine a situation where people are going to say, "Hey, let's do things the Vincent way instead of the Claire way." Um, would you be okay for 5 minutes when I go to the kitchen?
yeah,
All righty.
there has to be another way to breed. It can't be the old way. Ugh. Just another breeding system than the one we had, monogamous heterosexual marriage. Or, it fell apart for a reason, and everyone's like, oh, the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. It's like, no, it wasn't the Jews. It was Gentiles who were sick of living like that, both men and women, both men and women. Both men and women. I just imagine that. And yeah, collective breeding, selective breeding. I don't see why the government can't set up facilities where women can go and become impregnated by government chosen sperm. And not that everyone has to do this, but okay, if I was in ancient Rome and I was the emperor and nobody was breeding, I would just tax the childless and set up a temple and have women go there and have children for the state, and their fathers would be the military and the politicians, and they would be raised very stately and have military training and government training and education, and that's what I would have done. I wouldn't have just left it to the citizens to do it, who are stupid, uneducated, dumb, illiterate. I wouldn't have left it to all that. That's just not what you do. But, bad breeding system. It's a bad breeding system. It's a bad system. Give my birds their bath. Just give my birds their bath. I'm tired. I don't know. I don't know if anything can help white people at this point. I don't think anything can help them. I don't know. Maybe I think something can, but they seem so stupid these days. Especially the younger ones seem so dumb. I mean, it just seems like we went backward, like, in education, and does seem like we went totally backward.
Hello. Oh. Hello. Oh, I don't know if this is Claire. Are you there? Um. I just don't think people want to go back to the way things used to be. People weren't happy. That's why it changed. When people aren't happy, people weren't happy with kings. People weren't happy with theocracy. People weren't happy with church control. People weren't happy with a lot of things.
I'm back.
Okay, hold on.
And independent people, it's hard for them to shame each other when they're really independent. Like, high independence in a people means like do what you want and within reason. But, this kind of like acceptance and, you know, just doing what you want if as long as you're not hurting anyone, that's like very ingrained in us. And it's just even the people who do shame right now, they very rarely shame from like their account where they show their face and where they, you know what I mean, it's like, most of these people that are into shaming people are hiding, which when you hide, it means you're doing something wrong.
Well, to properly shame people, you have to have it from on high. It has to be done through media outlets and, senior people or people who are supposed to have some kind of influence, thought leaders, that sort of thing.
Whoa, Claire, you always talk about these like as if some kind of like hyper conservative people whose nose is totally clean are at the top of American society who are going to go around shaming people. All these senators have had affairs and are divorced and have children outside of marriage, and it.
You don't have to be perfect. It's sort of like, it's like, okay, I'm a sinner, but I repent and I think I should, turn over and you leave. You don't have to be perfect. It's just
Okay,
that,
well, they're just not going to feel as though they have, and especially if they got away with not being whipped, they're not going to want someone else to be whipped. If they committed
well, a 1 year's grace.
no, but they committed fornication and they weren't whipped, and they're grateful they weren't whipped, and they just don't want to whip someone else.
This is a minor objection. Okay, so basically,
Minor whipping in public is not a minor objection.
okay, I'm basically saying, if nobody is even going to, if no one is even prepared to say what needs to be done, then obviously the situation is hopeless. But um some show should be made on, well, we tried, and so um white nationalists need to be spoken to. It's like, hey, white nationalists, hey, Mr. White Nationalist, um, what's your solution other than mass deportations? Or, oh, hey, Mr. White Nationalist, you've kicked out all the people you want to kick out. How you guys going to live now? That would be the question to ask, in my view. Let's imagine you got rid of the Jews and the Muslims and the non-whites, and you're just left with white people. How are you guys going to live? Come on, show us your plan. Okay, maybe that's why they won't talk to me, because they already know I have this question.
Well, I don't see what their problem is with your suggestion because they're a bunch of conservatives, so I don't see what their
They're not
problem will.
conservative, are they? I mean, I don't know if you follow these Christians on X who, have their Christian spaces and talk about the Trinity and argue with the Muslims.
No.
Well, I follow. You know Alex and John, don't you?
Alice,
Disciple of,
yes.
yeah. So he's one of them, and it's like, well, what else are you going to do other than say people should adopt Christianity when America, from its founding, was not even properly Christian? How are you going to, return to the time of the Crusaders and shit like that? And of course, they're not going to answer that question. And it's like, how are you going to force your fellow whites into, oh, what are you going to do? You're going to restore the monarchy? You're going to have a king of America? Is it going to be Jay Dyer? I mean, okay, you want a king? You've got to choose someone. Is it going to be a Catholic king or a Protestant king? I suppose it could be Prince Harry, of royal blood anyway, living in California. Oh, and then you can have a non-white queen of America. I mean, come on. I mean, they haven't got a plan at all, and that's why they won't talk to me.
Yeah, no, they don't even want a plan. They don't even want one. It's bad to have a plan. It's bad to have a plan. It's bad to, have, they just want to be like Rake and, not even, oh, I mean, yeah, I mean,
No.
even like Rake, a lot of them are like, oh, my plot is for only like 50 people in the world who are going to take over when everything collapses. Rake was such a retard, like being like, oh, when Islam takes over, we'll be like some secret cult that rules, a bunch of Selemites. Are you fucking kidding me?
He's a fantasist, but many of them are fantasists. And I think deep down they're just banking on Western civilization will hold out until we kick the bucket, and so we don't have to admit anything. And our limited aim is to go to our graves before the West becomes Muslim. So why the hell would we help you promote secular Quranism, Claire? It's that idea. They're not even thinking in the long term. It's like, I hope that what we have now will hold out until I'm dead, and then I don't give a shit what happens to anyone after I'm dead.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You know, yeah, a lot of people are looking for their grave and are just grateful that they're gonna get out before it gets really bad. And I can understand that at this point. I can understand that sentiment that a lot of people in the West who are older are very grateful that they're older and are not young in this time. And I hear that a lot. And I'm glad that I'm not being born today in America. I'm glad that I was born 41 years ago in America.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you
Oh yes,
know,
you just had your 41st birthday.
yeah, I did. And yeah, no, I'm grateful to be a little bit older. Maybe it would be nice to have been born even earlier than that, and then I would have been in the glory days of America. I was in the very last of the glory days of America. I think like
You've gone quiet, Vincent. I don't know.
hello. Oh,
Hi.
um, I think that like the glory days of America probably ended in the 90s, or the early 2000s, and yeah, like but I was, at least born in the last of its upswing, and now it's definitely in social and political decline, and it would be very hard to be born now, especially if you're white, because everyone hates you, and it's like now sometimes in some schools you're the only white kid in the school, and it's not easy. It's not easy, you know what I mean? Because there's a separation there and there's a resentment there, and there's a difference there that they don't, they don't like, and there's a fear factor there, and there's just culture shock, and it's not the same culture anymore. When all these other people move in, it's not going to be the same culture. It's going to be a different culture, and white people are just going to feel generally uncomfortable in the culture, and it's it's not good, and it would be very hard to be born at this time. It would be very hard to be young at this time, and I mean, yeah, I can understand. Oh, just let me get to my grave in time before the, Big Ben strikes in 12, which is the end of the heyday. And
Well, it's a very pessimistic view because, obviously it won't be the end of history. I mean, America is not going to sink into the ocean, and there will be Americans of all races living in America. And, I just don't think it's that big a deal. It's like, well, there's something stopping white people from having a healthy birth rate, and it is feminism. And it's like, well, what would replace, what would defeat feminism is, a proper religion that supports marriage. And it's sort of like, look, for you and me, I mean, do we have to have, 10 children each or something stupid like that? You know, I don't think you do. All we have to do is, I mean, the standard is so low that all we have to do is say, this is what it's supposed, this is how it's supposed to work in theory. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. White Nationalist? And they'll have to agree. It's like, well, you got to agree to, you have to have babies, whatever your race, if you want your race to remain in existence. And if
like you
everybody,
could see by the reaction why it didn't work. Look, I mean, who the fuck what woman would want to marry Nick Fuentes? Okay, like, or one of these men that want to take away their right to vote and call them bitches and whores and curse them out and shit like that.
They'll
This
have to
is
change their tone, right? They'll have to change
why
their
they don't have
tone.
why they don't have to. If they get their way, they'll just be able to force themselves on women. You know what I mean? They won't need to change their tone. And it's
They'll never
just
get their way, though, will they?
why they used to. Men used to get their way when they behaved like that.
No, because when men were male chauvinist pigs, they had some idea of male solidarity, didn't they? They had certain
That's
rules.
not the point that I'm making is that women will rebel against that, and it's obvious that it's not going to work by what you see. They're acting like animals. They're acting disgusting. Like, they're disgusting people, and you can see what the system was like. This resurgence in masculinity, in heterosexual masculinity, shows us what kind of people we're going to be living under. We're going to live under, just either assholes or like fucking corny, you know, syrupy, I don't even know, like just corny Christians that are ignorant and stupid. And, it's a mix of those two things, just corny Christianity and assholery.
But if Christianity cannot be used to rally the men, they'll have to use something else. I thought we were both agreed.
Rally the men. What rally the men to be what? You're
To
missing the
be
point.
marriageable, so
They're
that
not
women like.
They'll never be marriageable. When men behave the way they want to behave, they're not marriageable. No woman wants them. You have to take away woman's ability to take care of herself to force her to marry these men.
Yeah, so since these men are virtually powerless, they'll just have to change their tune, right? This is the
That's
whole.
no, that's not what they're doing. They're doubling down on being assholes.
Yeah, because actually they wouldn't want to marry a woman of their own race, even if one could be found to marry them. That is their problem. It's like they don't want to marry the happy being gay bachelors. And so they have to be shamed, right?
You're missing the point. It's not going to work. You can see women are going to rebel against that again. You can see by the way by the way that they behave, they're going to make women miserable, and then women are not going to tolerate it, and they're going to rather be dead. And when you rather be dead, you fight back because you don't care anymore.
Yes. So I mean, obviously, the groypers are not considered good husband prospects, right? So, but the groypers don't care. They just like LARPing as haters of Jews and or red pill and whatever it is they do. So I don't see why we can't just sort of say, well, it's not going to work. Groypers, it's not going to work. Catholics, it's not going to work. Orthodox Christians. Um, I mean, what else is going to work? Okay, even if you're not marriageable, if you really were serious about finding a wife, you would kind of, I don't know, cut your hair, comb your hair, and speak nicely and make promises. If only to trick some unwary woman into marrying you, and then you turn and you become the slob, and you know. But anyway, the whole point is that in order to attract a woman, they have to kind of tidy themselves up. And if they refuse to even do that, then obviously they don't deserve to, remain in existence. And then the problem will solve itself because then they won't find women to marry, and their bloodline will die with them. But are they even white nationalists or just.
Well, fine. I don't know why. I don't. If I were Trump right now, I'd be like, the birth rate is too low, and we're going to set up a government center where, we pay women to have children, and the paternal influence comes from, oh, they'll get military training, they'll get education and government training, they'll, You know what I mean? They'll be raised by more than just their mothers. They'll be raised by their mothers and the state.
Don't you think children need to be brought up by their parents who...
I said mother, the mother's there. The father can be there too. The depends. I mean, maybe it would be better if the father wasn't there. But I think if you have look, if children are going to like, you know, they're getting discipline training every single day from multiple men, I think that that's better than, you know, having only just one father.
Well, I don't... Well, okay, I think children need to know who they are, and they can only know who they are through their parents. And if they have more than one dad, it's going to confuse them. And then when they're
No,
teens,
well,
you
they
don't think...
look, they could know who the father is. Maybe, you know, they or the father could have, you know, the father could have influence or whatever, or you know, they can know who their father is. But it's just look, you just need the women and the breeding, and that's it. And if you want the children to come up right, yeah, give them military training, give them a good schooling education, and have it so that their mother is there with them, but you know, there's men around to make sure that they don't go around getting in trouble.
But why would anyone want to look after anybody else's kid?
The mother is looking after them.
It's not enough, adolescent
Yes,
males
yes,
need...
yes, and they would get it because they would be the government would be their father.
Okay, so what you're describing seems to be the kibbutz system.
No, it's different than the kibbutz system.
Okay, what is a kibbutz system? Let's...
Well, that's just a commune. I'm just talking about the government paying, you know, mothers in a facility to have children, and the father is the government, but it's not communism. They can, you know, and then it's not like they have to live in this communal living setting or anything like that.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's high maintenance. All the all your solutions are high maintenance.
It's not high maintenance. It's more high maintenance to just let random people breed alcoholics, stupid people, diseased people, anything. Just anyone just breeding willy nilly is more costly than breeding a eugenic population through government control.
How do you know? I mean, the most low maintenance thing is like everybody buddy up with
No, it's
each other
obvious,
and look
and it's
after each
not
other
Claire. It's
in
not low maintenance
families.
because it collapses and doesn't last forever.
Okay,
It
it collapses because somebody upset the balance of things by introducing feminism and the pill.
it happens over again and again and
Yeah,
again
I
and
know, because
again.
what happens is you have empire, and when you are the supreme imperialist of the world, you don't think anyone can ever defeat you, and you lower your standards of sexual morality, and by the time anybody notices that it hasn't been a good thing, you will be so intellectually corrupt that you'll keep denying it until
Okay,
you're
because
dead.
oh look, you have to do something that people don't mind being involved in. You have to do something that people don't mind participating in. It can't be something that nobody wants to do. It won't last.
Okay, so I'm saying shame the white nationalists and call them out as hypocrites. They're
Okay,
not
that's
fit to
just
read.
you. It's only going to be you shaming them. It's not going to be themselves. It's not going to be anyone else.
I think you don't want to shame them, but I think if you started shaming them, they'd be even more shamed because you're gay.
They would just tell me you're gay, and they would tell me to shut up.
No, no, but the thing is, it's like, well, I may be gay, but I know how things work. And I don't
So
have to...
yeah, I know this thing that I get this free pass because I'm gay and I can go out and have all the sex that I want, but they have to, you know, because they're straight are penalized and need to get married.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you don't have to be forced into marriage. I mean, I guess the worst thing is, oh, Vincent, you're talking about marriage. We'll have to arrange a marriage for you and find you a woman, and you can make a mother out of her and pay for the kids. I mean, that's not going to happen, is it? So your worst nightmare is not going to happen.
That's not my worst nightmare. I'm talking about nobody listening to me because I'm gay and well, who the fuck are you to go around telling people, to have kids and not have sex outside of marriage when you're doing the very opposite of all that?
Because you, even though you are not a married father, are at least saying what is necessary to be done. That and because the
This is the thing. You're
bar
saying
is so
shame.
low, you find yourself actually shaming heterosexual men. That's how ridiculous, absurd the situation is. Because white men apparently can't even think straight or acknowledge what needs to be done because they're too terrified of being made to marry a woman of their own race and paying for the kids. That is how low they are. And they can't even say that. They're just going to pretend not to understand or say you have no right to tell them anything. But it remains true that that's their problem. They fear the responsibilities of married fatherhood. And it's like, okay, we anticipated that, and the secular Koranist Party of America has already, got a program for them. Right? We understand your problem. You won't be, but we'll there'll be remedial classes in instilling masculinity and principal behavior and stuff like that, right? So it's like, yeah, we know your problem, and we're going to help you with marriage bureaus, and we're going to help your marital relations with marital counselling and matrimonial disputes tribunals and you know stuff like that. Obviously you have to help them because they're so stupid. But when you think of weddings, it's like this is for the dumbest bitch in the world. Like, you, however dumb you are as a woman, will understand the difference between sex before your wedding day and sex on your wedding night. I mean, that's it. The wedding party was invented for women. And if they get married, they get this wonderful party that will remember the rest of their lives when they are the belle of the ball. That's the whole idea of the wedding.
Yeah. Well, I guess they want to do it for her.
But, I don't think we have to do it. Nobody's going to force me into becoming a mother and looking after kids. It's like, yeah, we just know what you should do. We don't have to do it. We're just pointing the way. Don't you want to find the right way and get to your desired destination, which is that of racial survival?
Not your way. Nobody wants to do it your way. If people would rather be dead, it's not a way. If people are like, I'd rather put a bullet through my brain than do it your
Well,
way.
then I get of your race.
No, there's another. No, just come up with another way. Just because we don't do it your way doesn't mean that there's no other way.
Okay, they're going to do it your way with artificial wombs.
No, there's other ways besides artificial wombs to breed without doing it your way.
You're basically perpetuating the problem of widespread illegitimacy.
But it's in a structured system. It's not some random woman goes out and gets pregnant by some random man and has a child and has to take care of it herself. No, it's she's taken care of by the government.
Okay, it's a government program. What you propose that there will be these nurseries for these fertile women who won't be living with the father of their children, right? That's your idea.
Yes, and the father is substituted by the state.
Well, I mean that's kind of what we have now. It's
no,
like the
I'm talking
government
about
is their
something more
daddy.
structured than that. I'm not talking about some random woman taking care of it on her own. I'm talking about it's connected to the government and That's just what I would do. If I wouldn't, I would just, I wouldn't even leave reproduction up to the citizens. They're not capable. Humans are not capable of running a selective breeding program.
Of course they are. If you
No, Claire, no animal breeder would breed the way heterosexuals breed together. No animal breeder would ever in their life just put a bunch of animals in a pen and let them fuck whatever they wanted.
That wasn't how it was done in previous
decades,
was it?
No,
this is how it's done now.
No, marriage is not a selective breeding program. That's to let the animals choose just who's going to breed with who based on nothing, based on what? Love, based on just emotion, physical attraction. None of that is selective breeding. None of it.
Well, in the olden days, what would happen is there would be a period of courtship, and both parties would be introduced to the other's family, and then if they're approved of, they get to marry. So it wouldn't be just the young person's preference.
That's still not selective breeding. They would want them to marry for money. They would want them to marry for this. They would want them to marry for politics. It's not like, it's just not the way we would breed animals. It's just not the way you breed animals, and it's not the way you should breed humans.
Okay, but it sort of worked for Western civilization for a bit.
Oh, really? To the point that nobody wanted to live like that and broke away from it?
That was when Western governments ceased the practice of slut shaming.
No, they didn't. No, the government didn't want birth control at all. The people fought for it.
Okay, so the government failed by saying, okay, everybody can go on the pill. And at first they only gave the pill to married women, and then they gave the pill to every woman. And look what happened.
Yeah, because there has to be another way. It's time for a new breeding system. We ruined the old...
Well, you haven't thought of anything that would actually work as quickly as what I propose.
No one's going to do what you propose, so it's dead in the water.
Well, there will be, okay, if white people are actually mentally, morally incapable of accepting that marriage was what made Western civilization great, and they prefer to die, and then they will die, and then the non-whites already living in Western countries will just take over, and Western civilization will just continue that way. It doesn't need white people. It just has to be, people in the West doing Western stuff.
Those non-whites won't maintain a Western standard of
How do you know? How do you know? I mean, these Indians, they have a lot of energy. They have a lot of ambition and testosterone.
Yeah, but they can't. They're not. They're going to change it. It's not going to be.
Of course, but you're just saying I give up. I'd rather die than marry.
No, I'm giving a solution that people would not rather die than do.
You just said they would. Nobody's going to do what you say. No white man's
going
to marry a white woman.
I'm not promoting anything that somebody would rather die than get involved in.
Yeah, but they oh yeah, when you're gonna get enough artificial wombs up and running.
We're not talking about artificial wombs. We're talking about what I said. People wouldn't rather be dead than do it.
Okay, so you're saying that there'll be a government program for these fertile women who will be pregnant by unspecified men who don't have to marry them, and the state will pay for these women. That's what you're proposing.
That's what I would do.
It doesn't sound very eugenic to me.
Oh, really? When you do selective breeding and you get the best semen?
How are you going to choose? I mean, okay, so these women like, oh, I'm a fertile woman. I'll open my legs to whoever you want.
It wouldn't be sex. It would be artificial insemination.
Okay, so I am a fertile woman, and I'm prepared to be artificially inseminated by any sperm you choose to put up with me. Okay, and that you think that's going to work? So who chooses? Who chooses these?
Well, maybe she can, maybe the government would, but maybe she can.
She can. But maybe it's a false identity. Maybe I seem to remember a story of
Claire,
fertility.
you're talking about 1 in a million. It's a false semen deposit. Like, that's not going to happen generally. That's not going to happen
It's
generally.
dysgenic anyway. The whole IVF thing is
No,
dysgenic.
you don't know what eugenics is. You just don't even know what it is.
I do. I'm saying
No, you think that a parent arranging their child's marriage is eugenics.
yes. I'm saying marriageability is a eugenic trait, a
Most people in
desirable
the old days,
eugenic trait.
most people got married. There was nothing stopping people who weren't that bright, people who weren't that attractive, people who weren't that industrious, people who were a little lazy. Nothing stopped them from breathing and having children. Their parents, okay, my son's a little bit dumb, not retarded, but a little bit dumb. But you know what? We have money and I can pay a girl to marry him. That's not eugenics.
Generally speaking, insisting that people marry before having children is a eugenic practice. I don't see how you can deny that.
No, there needs to be something better than that. Your old system.
What could be better than that?
Well, look, it didn't produce a great human. I have given you what would work better than that, where you actually don't select for love, don't select for cash, don't select for this. You select for genetic quality based upon their performance in life.
But you know that lots of successful parents have really dumb children.
No, Claire, then you deny eugenics if you think that there's no correlation between being smart, intelligent, healthy, industrious, and passing that on to your children.
Yeah, but if you don't parent them, then they're going to turn out like shit.
No, there's genetic. Your genes determine a lot of who you are, and I'm not saying there would be a mother there and they would have their paternal influence from the state, so they would be raised very well.
How do you know? You just think, you hope it might be true, but
The way okay, people would rather be dead than do it your way, so it's never going to work.
okay,
So it's dead in the world.
people won't even take your idea seriously. So
Huh?
of course they're not going to take your idea seriously, but maybe that's the whole plan. It's like you're not really going to propose anything serious that people will actually sort of sit up and take notice over. You're going to have this sort of fantasy thing that people will say, oh, well, that's never going to happen.
Why can't it happen?
Well, have you persuaded anyone?
Well, I didn't start on this proposal very much yet, but artificial wounds, people were interested in that. I forget which one. I told you Colin was so angry because he said everyone was talking about it and that he wished he could ignore it.
Well, I mean, I know that the red pillars were kind of excited about it because they thought then we don't have to be nice to women. We can just impregnate the...
Okay, so then I proved my point. There's at least somebody who's interested in it. It's not nobody.
Yeah, but they're just dumb people who think, well, okay, what are you going to do with a kid once it's, fully formed and born?
They can take care of it, Claire. They're not you that need, someone else to help
them. A man will be able to look after a kid all by himself.
If they raise them collectively, then they don't need the woman there.
Okay, so
it would be better if the woman wasn't there.
Bunch of men who are prepared to be looking after children.
And shifts, yeah, men can do that. I mean, especially if they raise them in like a military fashion, yes, it would be much easier. The way we raise children is like, a free for all.
What is this military fashion that you're talking about?
Well, there's a man in charge of children or two men in charge of children. And usually two men, if you have a bunch of young kids, are going to be able to keep them in line doing something, throughout the day. I mean, they have to have playtime, but there's education. I mean, I would train them in combat and all these other kinds of things that, men
You're
would,
going to train them in combat?
or I would have them trained in combat, but if men were, if these heterosexual men would raise these children collectively without needing women around, yeah, they would probably raise them in a more military fashion. Like, okay, everyone, let's go. Now it's time for military combat. Now it's time for education. Now it's time to learn civics. Like, okay, it's playtime now. Yeah, I think it would be a very efficient system.
So basically, you're expecting people to buy into your fantasy vision of the future.
Well, they already have. I mean, more people were interested more people were interested in artificial wombs than secular Quranism.
Yeah, but that's because of the infantilization of Western men. It's like,
okay, well, stop saying, okay, I have more followers than you do, and you're telling me that nobody's going to listen to me.
Well, yes, they listen to us, but they don't take us seriously, do they?
Well, they did. I mean, what, did Khalid just lie and say that people were talking about it? Like, is she angry over nothing?
Well, I think the anger has passed. I mean, nobody's exactly talking about artificial wombs as the way of the future.
Well,
it's a passing fad.
No, it's not. It hasn't passed that. It's only growing. It's not a passing fad. And then, so then there's something else. There's collective breeding where the men just like run it like a military camp and raise the children in a military camp.
Okay, they have to find women, right? Prepared.
Yeah, well, pay them. Women will do it for cash. They already do it for cash. Women already have children for cash, so we can just pay them.
Okay, so you're talking about these surrogates, in India who.
No, well, we would pay the women. Just pay the women, give them an apartment, be like, have our children.
Right. So, are there any heterosexual men who like your idea?
Well, I didn't propose this to them yet, but they like the artificial womb. So
yeah, but that's because of, the immature men who think, well, at least I don't have to be nice to women to get them to have my baby. But and if you ask them who's going to look after the baby after it is born, they won't have any answer.
Yeah, if they do now, I have an answer for them. Collectively, do collective, male child rearing of the children.
Okay, so basically the women will be saying, hey, you're muscling in our territory, homosexual.
They're being paid to have children, and that's it. They were paid. They were given their salary, they had the child.
Well, where's the money going to come from when
the men who are working? Where's the money come from when you have your children the way?
Vincent, don't you understand? If a man's going to pay for something, he's going to pay for a woman to have sex with and look after his children and do his cooking.
They're not. Okay, Claire. If everyone wanted to do it like that, everyone would be doing it that way. No one ever anymore on this planet, or at least in the West, wants to do it like that. Nobody. That's why nobody's getting married.
That's why your birth rates are declining.
Yeah, because there needs to be another way.
Been taken over by immigrants.
There needs to be another way. So do it another way or perish, because people would rather be dead. People would rather be dead than do it your way. And yes, there are more people interested. There's more scientists working on artificial wombs than there are people who are spreading secular Quranism, Claire.
Well, at least with secular Quranism, the religious people know about it, and the Jews know about it, the Muslims know about it, the Christians certainly know about it. And
they know about it and oppose it. You don't have,
and the Islamophobes, they know about it too.
Okay, well, you don't have any followers. You don't have anyone that wants to follow you.
Well, they understand my very simple solution, which is to get yourself a religion that shames sluts and shames unmarried parents, like what your ancestors used to do when they were so successful. And they can sort of kind of acknowledge that. But, your thing is, trust me to come up with artificial wombs and run this government program when I come to power and pay all.
No, I'm not trying. Not when I come to power. I'm just suggesting it to people. I don't have to do this all myself.
Okay, for someone in government to think, what a good idea, we're going to sponsor this great idea of Vincent's and dispense with marriage.
Okay, well, we'll see what people, if people would rather commit suicide, then it's not going to work.
Well, people always go committing suicide, right?
Okay, fine, Claire, try, Claire, because you don't have a single follower because nobody wants to do it your way. And you're very, like, I don't know what to tell you anymore. Nobody wants to do it your way. It's obvious. The proof is in the pudding. You don't have a single follower. Everyone hates it. Like, I've never met a person who was like, oh, wow, this is great. Like, you know, sure.
Carol.
Yeah, and now she's not. She's totally abandoned it. Anyone who did follow you
came and joined us the other day. Yesterday.
She's not a secular Quranist. She's not supporting secular Quranism.
Yeah, but that's because she can't bring herself to support a one-party state and whatever. But I mean, she's been my most consistent female American supporter.
She's not your supporter, Claire. Don't flatter yourself. She's not your supporter.
Oh, she can't abandon the idea because she keeps coming back.
No, yeah, to fight with you, not to praise you.
She's been very helpful. She's saying, look, you need this thing. I'm still not sure what she means, but that she joined us yesterday to say you need this thing that you can repeat, and I don't know. I'm not.
Claire, there are more scientists working on artificial wombs than you have followers.
I don't need lots of followers now. All I need is somebody at the top who thinks, oh, hey, maybe white people need a bit of help with the institution of marriage, or they'll just die out or become second citizens in their own country and be utterly replaced. Well, there might be some decent senior politician who, can read the writing on the wall and think, well, actually, the unofficial religion of Americans is feminism and anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, and they're not viable belief systems because nothing in feminism, Islamophobia, or anti-Semitism is going to help white people sort out their shit. Because they're just playing the blame game, or becoming more and more degenerate and making the problem harder and harder to solve. But if white people repent, then they could claim moral leadership of having corrected themselves before the sky fell in on them.
Yeah, I don't know. You act like there's only one person in charge. There's not like one senior politician that's going to be able to change this. You would have to get all of Congress to be on your side.
Oh, just get Trump's supporters. Trump's people already in government.
Okay, and who's going to do it? Who do you have your eye on?
What's that? The Attorney General?
Pat Bondi or whatever her name is, Pam Bondi.
Yeah. Hi, Jason. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Claire. How's it going?
I guess we're being a bit contentious here, Vincent and me. I don't know if you have any comments to make on what we're arguing about, and I'm sure you don't like either of our ideas, but would you care to make a choice?
Well, make a choice, pick a side. No, I just hopped in to say hi mostly. I don't know that I have a ton of ideas on what you guys are talking about or a ton of input, because I'm not even quite sure what I was trying to follow, but I'm kind of in and out with work.
Okay, I'll explain. So we're both promoting completely systems that are antithetical to each other. So I'm saying Sharia for non-Muslims would defeat feminism and restore respect for the institutions of marriage and the family, and it's the quickest way to do it. And Vincent says everybody hates the idea of marrying and paying for the kids, and they would rather die. and he's saying when artificial wombs are invented and good enough.
No, I said no. Well, look, right now, artificial wombs are way in the future. What I said right now is just, if this was ancient Rome and the citizens weren't breeding, I would just tax the citizens who weren't having children. I'd set up a temple where mothers would stay. They would get the best semen, and then the women would raise the children, and the state would act as the father. They would get military training. They would get civic training. They would get education from the state. They would get all these different kinds of things. That's what I would do. If nobody does it that way, I think people would rather die than do it Claire's way, but
The Claire's way is basically, because I'm not even super familiar with secular Quranism, but that's, if I'm following right, Claire's way would be that you're kind of establishing a religion that really emphasizes the ideal of marriage and family life and
Yes.
and reproduction. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I could see why the appeal of an artificial womb, or just having like the best genetics would be appealing to people. Because I think I'm not a woman, but I imagine it's a huge sacrifice to actually go through childbirth and actually carry a baby in your womb. It destroys your body. So I can see the appeal of wanting an artificial womb. And then if you are going to go through that process anyway, I could see you would want, you wouldn't even want what is it, the option or whatever of the child actually, it could perish or something. So you'd want to kind of some sort of reassurance, like if you're going to go through with this, like you would want a healthy child. So I could see that appeal as well. I don't know. I kind of see both sides. But then
and there would be
you
also
mentioned Claire's.
either system, whether it's government breeding or artificial wombs, demands planning and selection of semen. Not, oh, I fell in love with her, and it's an emotional bond, and we're gonna have children, and we're both not the most desirable, but we fell in love with each other. No, it needs to be actual, like we do with animals, where it's like, okay, what's the best specimen? Who's the best specimen? Let's use his semen. Let's use her eggs. And then, pairing them correctly, not willy nilly, whoever, whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to be really generous because I understand what you're saying, and I understand how it could get really get it- if I was being like a harsh critic of it, how it could be taken to an extreme really quickly. But then again, even with what you said, like I don't necessarily know how you necessarily decide that. Like if you're looking at just physical attributes, that's one thing. But then,
Mental, emotional, and yeah, mental and emotional and things like that. Yeah, it's, and then okay, so then let the woman decide. Get like the different kinds of like that's, women do that now. Women who do artificial, they just go through a magazine and they find a man. I think you should do more than go through a magazine, but they find the man that they want, and then they get that artificial insemination. I don't know, maybe they would let the government choose it. Like, these are details that need to be brought down, but I don't think that's the big thing. I think it's just getting the bigger idea out there and trying to do that. But don't you think, what would people rather right now in this civilization at this point in time have? That the government start paying for birthing temples, or to whip people into marrying? So basically, if anyone commits fornication outside of marriage and has a child out of wedlock, they get whipped 100 times in public. What is more likely to come in, like either artificial wombs or government breeding programs, or just whipping people who have sex outside of marriage?
I think I think what's more likely to happen is the government trying to do the artificial womb thing. I could see that. I could see that being more likely. I wouldn't really want the government whipping anybody. What I would personally want would actually, if I was going to have kids, to have it within a marriage, um, because I just think there's a lot of I don't know, there's the idea, even lately to me, there's the concept of vows and actually making promises and commitments to certain things. Uh, I feel like is important, especially in that context. And and then because I think the weight of actually bringing a child into the world is quite heavy, and so I feel like I would need those vows within my own self to,
But they don't
in
work.
order.
Nobody wants to stay married. 50% of marriages collapse. Even the second marriages collapse. And nobody wants to do it. And you can't propose systems that nobody can maintain. It's not, you can't give people impossible standards. This is impossible. Nobody wants to live like that. It never lasts. It didn't last in Rome. It didn't last in Greece. It's just the breeding systems collapsed because nobody's happy.
But so I don't know history, so I don't know. That's what I mean. I don't really have much to say on this. I didn't know the breeding system collapsed in Rome. Is that what their
Well, they
downfall was?
stopped having children. Yeah, there were so many childless people that they put in a bachelor tax, but they were fucking idiots and spent it, instead of building a birthing temple and producing children, they spent it on war.
Uh, Isn't they? Do they? I mean, wouldn't? Sorry, like this whole topic is way out of my wheelhouse. But wouldn't war? Uh, I mean, I guess that wouldn't be through marriage or anything, or really propagating or like reproducing Rome. But they would probably, I would imagine, their soldiers would have sex during war and still reproduce. Probably not in a very nice way, but
Well, they weren't doing it. They were doing it so little. They were reproducing so little that the government was scared.
Yes, Rome and Greece practiced pederasty. So they would kind of choose an adolescent male or a pubescent male, and that would be I mean officially it was teaching how these young boys how to be a man. But actually having sex with them, and it's like, well, it's cheaper to have same-sex sex than it is to actually pay and marry a woman and pay for the kids and stuff. And so that was what the Roman bachelors preferred to do.
hmm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Sex is very light in our culture. I think, because I mean, even with things like I heard you guys mention birth control as well. Like, there's no like if it wasn't for like for different forms of contraception, I think sex would be a lot more terrifying. Well, I mean, unless if you're having it, you know, uh, I don't know. What's your secular Quranism? Is it mostly based around, is that your idea that you came up with, Claire? And is it mostly based around like reproduction and things like that, or?
Well, I've come to the conclusion that all the religions you've heard of have serve this particular purpose, which is to frighten people into marriage and being responsible parents and shaming you if you aren't, if you get divorced. So I think all of these religions do that.
Okay. Why, how'd you come to that conclusion?
Because I
And I don't
suppose
think you're wrong.
um, because I think marriage is eugenic, and because the Sex Act only takes minutes to complete, you have to actually believe that God is watching every single move you make, or you'll be inclined to cheat. And so that's why I think Westerners had the edge over other cultures who didn't believe in this Abrahamic, all-seeing, omnipotent God who knows everything and sees everything and will judge you accordingly. You know, and I guess when Europeans believed that, they were more more likely to obey the rules. That's my
Gotcha. So
theory.
that's what you're trying. You think that promoting that would be helpful towards just people reproducing. Okay.
Well, towards restoring the practice of marriage.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
obviously
And
making marriage a good bargain for men again, because if men are happy with one night stands, then why would they pay for the most expensive form of sex, which is marriage? So because women don't get it, and put out when they shouldn't, they lower the price of sex so much that men no longer respect women. But if women were slut-shaming each other and waiting until they got the ring on their finger before they had sex with men, then they would raise standards of sexual morality, and actually in the end they would make it easier for women to find a marriageable man and become married mothers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense
But
to me.
you need to tell
That's
them
what I
what
would
the
do.
rules are, because if they don't get it, then they won't behave accordingly. It's just a way of bargaining with them. It's like, women, don't you want to become married mothers, really? Maybe not when you're in your 20s, but it's too late to want to become a married mother in your late 30s, because nobody wants to marry you then.
Yeah, that I mean that makes sense to me. And I mean personally, like I said, I would probably swing more that way. But I guess what would always with all those ideas and presenting those rules, I would I'm just the type of person that would kind of ask why, like weirdly just keep trying to dig under. Like if there is a rule that exists, like say God actually does exist, and there is this weird divine being who gave this law of marriage is good, even if it's, I mean, I guess just a monogamous marriage is good and reproduction is good. It's like, why are those things good? And why should it be? Why, what's the
Well,
why behind it, I guess?
I mean, I'll be trying to
Like the
explain
rule's
to
not
Vincent.
arbitrary.
Yeah, I mean, trying to explain to Vincent, it's a government breeding program. I mean, patriarchy is a government breeding program. It's like everybody buddy up and form families and look after each other, and don't keep looking to the state for help. You guys look after yourselves, and we give you the freedom to do whatever you want within reason, provided you don't break the law. And now we're totally under the control of the government, because we're looking for government handouts and welfare benefits and stuff.
So you're saying that that's wrong to do that, or
Well,
to
I
have
mean,
the government do that. Yeah,
yeah, because I think we're not producing
just leave
um,
more.
enough people to join the labor, enough school leavers that are considered to be desirable employees to join the labor force, and then that's why everybody's complaining about immigration, and that's why they voted Trump, and that's why so many liberals are upset. But all these problems and behavioral patterns that have brought us to where we are now, have existed for 50 years.
Hmm.
Not taking marriage seriously, not marrying before having
Yeah.
children, not staying together for the sake of the children, and it's just produced a bunch of mentally ill, underachieving people who are not fit to join the labor force.
I yeah, I guess that's kind of like the idea of not taking marriage seriously is kind of, I guess, maybe more what I'm interested in. I don't feel like I've thought about this enough yet, but even you mentioning like why, if you could just go around and have sex with multiple partners and have no repercussions or no like children come through that or no, I don't know, no STDs, like there's just no repercussions. Like why is that not why don't people choose that more? Or if people do choose that more, is there a point in their life where that just kind of runs its course and or like this isn't fulfilling? Like this ultimately isn't fulfilling. And so it's like, why is that? Why is that the case? And what is it about marriage and actually establishing a family and reproduction and having kids and bringing new life into the world? Like, what is I guess, the underlying ideal? Like, if that is a rule, that this is a good thing for us rather than just continuing our species, like what is the underlying rule of it? I guess that's what I'm kind of wondering about.
Well,
And why is it why not have 50 wives over one? Like, does that make sense? Like, you know, I,
I suppose most men wouldn't be able to afford one wife, let alone 50 wives. But, obviously it's different. I mean, having sex with 50 women is a different proposition to paying for 50 for 50 wives and the children, and you can only do that if you're king. But I mean, I suppose the point is just to acknowledge, and Vincent does acknowledge, that marriage is a sacrifice and a burden, and he, as a gay man, kind of sees why heterosexual men might not want to do that.
Yeah, it is a sacrifice and a burden, but I think there's a lot of I think people find a lot of meaning in that, I guess, um, and joy and fulfillment. I mean, I don't have kids and I'm not married. I'm engaged right now, but um, I feel like I can't
Congratulations.
speak for all those people. Thank you. Thanks. Um, but yeah, so I feel like I can't really speak to this that well, but I mean, that's what I hear about people is just like having that the sacrifice of having a kid, but is like just so worth it. Like it is. I mean, it does kind of end your life in a lot of ways, but I hear from everybody that for most people that have kids that it's worth it. Like my sister, for example, her and her husband got married and they were planning on traveling, of course, and doing, everything they wanted to. And then they accidentally got pregnant and then had the kid. And she was miserable her entire pregnancy. But like, if you ask her now, she wouldn't trade anything for it. Like, she just would do it all again. Um, so like, it's weird, this joy that comes through the sacrifice and the meaning, I think, that comes through it. Um, and then I don't know that the whole thing with the multiple wives. I guess that's why I wonder about that because I mean, even thinking about like ancient stories and it's like if you have like, I mean, just even like stories that people write, like fantasy fiction stories, whatever, they'll write about like a king and then he's got all these bastards everywhere that have like,
Mm.
it just seems like there's something to uh that there seems like there's some, I don't know if it's metaphysical, I have no idea. I don't know if maybe it's just some weird spiritual rule that could be arbitrary or something, but it seems like there's something to the idea of like finding another person that is strange, like not the same as you, like 'cause you don't like intermarry with your family, but a strange person, and then making a covenant with that singular person and then having children with that person. So like your identity isn't spread out too broad or something like that, if that makes sense. And your identity is like contained within a vow between those two people. And then that's like reproduced into the world. There seems like there's something with that's what I mean. I haven't thought about it enough, but the rule that seems to be a rule in a lot of civilizations, maybe it's just religious ones, but it seems to be like, kind of a rule. Well, like I don't know Greek and Roman cultures all that much, so maybe it's just Abrahamic stuff. But that rule, that God makes a rule, and I'm just like it doesn't seem like it's just a arbitrary like, hey, don't do this because I'll whip you. Like I feel like there's like a reason, or there
Oh,
should
oh
be a reason.
yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a man-made rule or something.
Well, I mean, animals don't have to be told to breed, right? Instinctively, they find a member of the opposite sex, and if they like them, they'll have sex, and then they'll have children. And they don't have to be told about these things that we do because, we're so smart. We have to say, well, why do I have to do that? I don't fancy getting married. I don't want to have children, etc. But I suppose you could put it in a way like, well, here we are, from an impossibly, unimaginably ancient lineage. I mean, apparently we're all descended from Adam and Eve, or we all came from Africa, and we've all, turned different colors, and some of us are going to die childless. And,
Some of us look like
and it
Black.
means we haven't passed on what we were ourselves given. And therefore, maybe that there's a kind of, well, you didn't rise to the challenge. You know, um, and okay, but there's a certain element of shame in it, I suppose. But maybe it's useful, because shame is, well, you don't have to, beat them with your shame stick. You just say words and put ideas in people's heads, and then they might just take it. Um, they might just decide that they ought to be ashamed of it. And this
Mm.
means, you have to make arguments and, yeah, just put your case, right?
Huh. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm definitely all for having children. I think children are great. I kind of wonder when you were talking, I kind of wonder if there's a connection with Ecclesiastes. I
Oh
don't
yes,
know.
I've read that because I
Yeah,
mean it's a pretty nihilistic book, isn't it? You know, it doesn't matter if you're wise, all is in vain. We're all gonna die. Your wealth will disappear if you're rich. Your wisdom will die with you.
yeah,
You know, and um, and in the end, it says all. You know, the only thing we can hold on to is, I think, you know, it's a fear of God, isn't it? That's how
yeah.
it ends, something like that.
Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is man's all. For God will bring every work in a judgment. But it's like the book kind of has a weird wave to me. Like it weirdly feels like absolutely nihilistic, like you're talking about, but then at the same time, the most meaningful because it kind of, I think, confronts you with the the futility of life or the fleeting aspect of it. And so I guess I don't know. That's why it kind of reminded me when you said like at the end of your life, if you get to this point and you haven't reproduced, it's like you're just gonna die on your deathbed alone. And then you're kind of like, does I don't know if shame or just some sort of fear, existential fear of going in of passing on and then just being forgotten, maybe. If you're confronted with that, and maybe that's I don't know, just the
Oh yes,
futility being confronted with the utility of life might make you want to like like marry a wife, have a family, like you know, have those deeper, more intimate connections, I guess, or something. I don't know.
yeah, or having regrets like, well, maybe I should have married, you know, whoever when I had the chance, and look at me, I'm all on my, you know, own. I mean, you know, I guess as we're younger, we don't think of ourselves on our deathbeds with our, you know, very long list of regrets. But you know, well, songs have been written about it, you know, Je ne regrette rien, by, I forget like, her name now, but of the singer. But yes, I mean, and the thing is, you know, if there is an afterlife, you know, and we end up in the wrong place, we'll certainly have a lot of regrets, right? Um, so
Yeah.
so I guess the whole of our life is like, does God exist or doesn't he? You know, is there an afterlife or isn't there? And you know, if there is, you know, where will I end up? You know, it's that kind
Yeah.
of philosophical question.
Yeah.
And I guess if we do the difficult things, then we're less likely to have those regrets.
Mm.
Um, but you know, we also need government support, don't we? I mean, you know, we can't. You know, a lot of us will just, you know, go with the flow and do what the rest of our friends do, and you know, certain things need to be encouraged, right? I think they do anyway, and marriage, because it's such an undertaking and a burden, needs government support.
Needs government support. Do you think that government would put their hand in it too much, or no? With
Well, I mean,
government, or do you think
it's
that's just where we are today?
okay. Government did support marriage just by saying, you know, we're going to shame you if you're an unmarried mother. We're going to shame you if you're an unmarried bachelor or spinster. You know, we're going to say you're gay, and you know, mock you for not getting married. But we're going to privilege married parents and pat them on the head and say what a, you know, what a great job you're doing. It was Edith Piaf, by the way, in case anybody's interested,
Mm.
who sang "Je ne regrette rien." Um, and and so, you know, even that is sufficiently encouraging, because I guess in poor countries, parents would regard their children as their pension, which you know, I know Vincent would just hate the idea, but that was how poor people thought. You know, I'm going to have children. Some of them may be good, and some of them may look after me in my old age, or you know, that sort of idea. And so it would look after itself, right? I mean, you know, because people would see, well, I want to have sex, I want to have children to raise my status, because to not be married will mean I am low status. So I'll get married, and maybe my children will be good, or you know, and then they'll just get on the
Yeah,
bandwagon.
I understand. Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah, but for people like Vincent, I mean, do you think that's the end? the end goal is to have, like, that's basically the goal of life, is to just have children and reproduce? Or
Well,
do you
no,
think there's
because
something deeper than that?
I mean, this should be something the majority of people should be doing, right? I mean, I'm certainly not saying, bachelors have no contribution to make because, a lot of inventors are bachelors or, a lot of people, artists, people who, um, who are talented, I guess, they probably wouldn't be able to do it because they'd be distracted by children and wife and they need to, time to, write their novels and make their inventions and compose their music or whatever. Um, but some people can, multitask. But the idea is that um, you you're fair to people. It's like, well, if you're doing the harder job of bringing up children as a married parent, you should be patted on the head. And if you're not quite there yet, or nobody wants to marry you for whatever reason, you still have a contribution to make, but you're not as privileged as the married parents. And if you have, children without a marriage license, you done wrong, and we're gonna shame you. It's three simple rules, really.
Huh, gotcha.
And then people will know. People will know what the
Okay.
government
So is that
approves
why
of.
why is it secular Quranism? Is it because you took it from the Quran? Or
Yes, yes, I did. But obviously, I have my own
oh, you did,
interpretation
yeah.
because I don't agree with the Muslim,
Yeah.
interpretation of executing apostates or stoning adulterers and a lot of
Claire,
crazy stuff.
I think I lost you.
Oh, do you? Oh, I think he's gone. Oh well. Perhaps he'll come back again. I'm so pleased that I um, I managed to speak with Jason, um, who is sort of doing the normal things. He's engaged, and then he'll be married, and he'll have children, and that's what he wants to do, and that's so good, so wonderful, and very cheering news. But I think I will end this stream because I've been talking for so long. So thank you all for coming and welcome, Jason. And it was good to talk. And perhaps we'll speak again before too long. Thank you, everybody.